Hello world! Today I've got for you my first impressions and a quick review of the Too Faced Born This Way concealer and foundation. Hey everybody, Shelly here, and today I'm going to check out a new to me product, and that is the Born This Way foundation, which is not a new product. It's been out for about a year now, and I've looked at it and swatched it in Ulta probably a dozen times and have not to this date picked it up. Now, I did get convinced by YouTube to purchase the Too Faced Born This Way concealer, and when I purchased the concealer, they also gave me samples of the Born This Way foundation. And they gave me 3 shades, the lightest being vanilla. So I went online to see what each of these shades panned out to be description-wise, and vanilla was described as a shade for fair to light skin tones with a neutral to pink undertone. So that actually suits me pretty well for summertime. It might be a smidgy too dark, but only the tiniest bit. Normally I would then mix it with one of my lighter foundations or I have a Manic Panic white foundation fixer. But in this case, I just want to try it out straight on its own, so I did not do that. But this foundation is marketed as undetectable, medium to full coverage foundation. It's oil-free, and it's described as having a slightly dewy finish. It's got hyaluronic acid, which is a wonderful ingredient for moisturizing, also coconut water. Note though, these are pretty far down on the ingredient list. There's going to be a really tiny amount of these products in here, so there's no way that I would say like this could be part of your skincare regimen or anything like that. But I would say it's also better to have those ingredients than to not have those ingredients, so it's good that they're there. It's also got Alpine Rose to brighten skin's appearance and promote elasticity, but again, in minimal amounts. This is not a skincare foundation. One of the things that every reviewer on YouTube has said is that it is totally natural and flawless looking and undetectable on the skin. And even in the product description that they've got here, they describe it as blurring imperfections. 98% of people said that foundation made their skin look absolutely perfect. So we are going to take all of those amazing claims in this medium to full coverage foundation and see if they hold up. Now, of course, you guys know I've got dry skin. I am very fair complected. I've got some signs of aging creeping up on me. I'm 41 years old as this video is being filmed. It's not going to be true for much longer. I've got some fine lines, especially under the eyes. I've got smile lines. I've got lines on the forehead, some laugh lines. The texture of my skin is starting to have issues where I actually have texture to my skin. I've got enlarged pores, even though I do not have oily skin in any way, shape, or form, but my pores are quite visible on my cheek and in between my eyes. And as you will see when I do the application demo, my face is kind of one hot mess right now. So this is probably a wonderful time to try out a foundation and see if it really holds up to all of these claims on a mildly challenging face. I know my face is not super challenging. I don't need full coverage, and my problems aren't that horrible. But at least in my world, this is a pretty challenging day to put on some foundation. So, going to try out the foundation. I've just got the sample. I'm going to also use the Born This Way concealer, which I've got in shade Very Fair, which I don't think is very fair. It is the lightest shade they have, but I think it's too dark for me in the wintertime. But at least for summertime, so far we're doing all right. I've been using this for about a week. I will share my impressions in the application demo. Then I'm going to go about my day. I've got some errands to run. It's hot outside. I'll check back regularly, and we will see at the end of the day how this is going. let's see what this Born This Way foundation can do. I'm going to apologize in advance. The zoo is just going nuts. There's a cat fight going on in the bathroom. There's another cat climbing all over my vanity. Can you hear that? So what will be will be. So get ready. We may have some drama on our hands. But this is a really good day to be trying out a new foundation because my face is in bad shape right now. So about an hour ago, I washed and toned and moisturized and applied my sunscreen. I've got a lot going on today. Got a new friend, a little pimple here. That I'm not acne prone at all, and this is not a common occurrence, but we've got one. I'm noticing that I'm getting little capillaries, broken blood vessels. I'm reading also that they're not going to go away, so but I've got one that has showed up right by my nose. I've got another one right down here. I have a renegade eyebrow hair that is deemed itself unpluckable, and it is very angry right now. My usual blood vessels that kind of go along my eye and under my eye are raging blue right now. I look like I've been punched in the face. Dark circles, as always. My pores, bah, 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 bah. So for somebody that usually doesn't need a whole lot of coverage out of a foundation, I need a little bit of coverage now. I know it could be worse, but these are my traumas that I'm living with, and I'm not used to having so much trauma going on my face. So, on one half of my face, I am going to use primer. This is the Makeup Forever Step 1 Nourishing Primer because my face is a little bit dry today. And I'm only going to do it on half of my face just to see by the end of the day if the foundation looks any different. I've also got the Born This Way concealer. This is in shade Very Fair, which is very not fair. It's going to be fine for my summertime when I'm a little bit darker. This is my version of dark, but I don't think I'm going to be able to use this in the winter. I've been using this for a couple weeks now. I'm going to apply with a stippling brush, foundation brush. This is from Makeup Forever, and I'm going to blend my concealer with my tiny baby-sized beauty blender. All right, I'm going to go in with some primer, and I'm just going to do the left half of my face with primer. And I tend to just focus it on the areas where I have trouble, like my cheeks where my pores are large, around my smile lines, my forehead, and my chin. Let's see if I can do this right down the middle. And let's get a little bit on this half of my chin. Sometimes I do my nose, sometimes I don't. You know, I have large pores on my nose, and foundation likes to settle into them, and that's really annoying. But at the same time, sometimes foundation doesn't like to lay down on my nose when I have primer on. We'll do it today. We're just going there. We're going there. Now I've only got a sample of this because this is a $39 foundation. I've been trying a lot of foundations over the past few months, and I have a stockpile of them. I've only returned the worst of them. So I'm not quite ready to drop $39 unless this is worth my time. So I did get this sample last time I was at Ulta when I purchased the concealer, actually. And if it does lead to a purchase, then I guess that was a really brilliant marketing move on Too Faced's part. I think the easiest way to do this, since I've got a limited amount of foundation, is going to be to squeeze this out onto my hand, dot it all over my face, and then use the brush to blend it. So let's go that road. Oh, maybe there's more in here than I thought there was. That's a, whoa. That's a good amount. Good amount. All right. Well, let's go that route anyway. So this is shade Vanilla, which is described as fair to light with neutral to pink undertone. And that is just about perfectly me this time of year. This is not graceful in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, it's all over my hand right now, so trying not to waste any products. Okay. I'm just going to stipple this in. All right, first impressions. I don't know if it's doing any favors for the texture of my skin. I know that one of the selling points is this flawless finish, but I feel like really, particularly on the side that has the primer, although this is the worse, more textured side of my face, I can see that I'm wearing foundation, so it's not quite as natural as the marketing claims. It's settling a teeny tiny bit into my smile lines, but it's really not settling into my forehead at all. That's a good thing. It has managed redness pretty well. I can still see a little bit of my blue veins popping out over here, but overall, okay. The finish is sort of dewy, a little bit more dewy than I tend to go for, but when you've got dry skin, you don't have many choices. You don't really get the option to go matte, so I just have to deal with that. And this feels maybe a little bit dark for me right now, but it's the lightest sample that I had, so let's try some of the Born This Way concealer. I'm gonna get my over here. And this is just a damp beauty blender. The baby one. The thing with this concealer, it blends beautifully. So easy to work with, and it's got great ingredients, but the coverage is not super great. I just feel like everything is still purple after I use it. It is probably the easiest, nicest to blend, and it like the smoothest, and it just feels wonderful. But I don't feel like the coverage is what it needs to be. And it's not even really a matter of layering it up, because I'll go back in and layer it a little bit, but it tends to start creasing up when I do this. And see, look how blue I still look. Let's just give it a little bit more. Sometimes you just gotta deal with it. All right, gonna go put the rest of my face on, and I'll be right back. Here we go, full face. I set the foundation with some Boots No. 7 Perfect Light translucent setting powder. That's about all I did with the foundation. I set my under eye as well. I'm feeling a little more textured than I normally would, especially under my eyes. This concealer is, it's not my favorite. You can probably tell that my dark circles are still pretty visible. Yeah. But going to go out and wear this. It's, like I said, about 90 degrees outside. Did I say that? I might have just thought I said that, but it's about 90 degrees outside. We might even have a thunderstorm. It's humid. I'm gonna go run some errands, and I will check back in a little bit. Now, one last thing, I did also use Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray on the left half of my face. So the left half of my face is basically how I would typically do my makeup. Primer, setting spray, whole 9 yards. Right half is no primer, no setting spray, just the remainder of my makeup. So let's see how this does. I'll see you in a bit. Hey guys, 5-hour check-in here. It is 7:42 in the PM. I applied my makeup around 2:30 this afternoon. I went out, I ran some errands. It was warm out, but then a rainstorm came through, which I got caught in just a little bit, but it cooled things down, so it wasn't very hot out. But I did run a bunch of errands, had lunch, thus the different lip. Right now, I would say the foundation looks pretty much exactly the way it did when I applied it. I can still see more texture in my skin than I'm used to seeing with other products, but It's not settling into the lines on my forehead or my smile lines. However, it's making them look more prominent. I don't know if a different application technique of this foundation would help. I think I am going to try it again because I have enough in that sample that I should be able to try it again, maybe with a beauty blender tomorrow. But so far, I think it's holding up really nicely. It does not seem to be oxidizing or changing color or anything. The concealer, on the other hand, I'm just not a fan of. It makes the lines and the crepiness under my eyes look even worse than it is, and the coverage is just not really there. So, can't say I'm a fan of the concealer, but so far the foundation is holding up pretty well. I do think that if I were to purchase this foundation, I would probably go down a shade lighter. They've got 2 shades lighter that have neutral to pink undertones than the one that I'm wearing now. And the one that's one step down is porcelain. And I believe the one that's the lightest possible is snow, if I'm not mistaken. But overall, so far, I'm pretty happy with the foundation. It's not knocking my Charlotte Tilbury Magic Foundation Holy Grail out of the water just yet, but so far, so good. It's been about 5 hours. I will check back in a few more hours to wrap up the evening, and we will see how it does. I am back for the moment of truth. We are at about the 8-hour mark. It is 10:38 in the PM, and I feel about the same as I did around the 5-hour mark. I think the foundation wore really well. I am able to see settling into my pores around my chin at this point. It is starting to crease the tiniest, smallest bit in my smile lines and my creases on my forehead. But overall, I think it still looks pretty good. Now remember, this side of my face I had used primer and setting spray, and this side I did not. So looking at one to the other, I think the primer side did hold the foundation a little bit better, but the primer side also seems to show texture a little bit more. So I don't know if the lack of texture on this side is in part because you can kind of tell in this area the foundation has faded a bit. It's not as well defined here. It's kind of losing its oomph. On my forehead, same kind of thing. I think this side that had the primer still looks like it held everything. I can still see the bronzer that I had applied, whereas it's fading on this side. So I think primer does help the staying power of this foundation, and the texture I think has been there since I put it on. I don't think that got worse over time. I think it's the same as it was. Maybe that would change with a different application method. I will certainly be trying that out. I do definitely feel that this foundation is worth a continued look. I think it's really nice. My skin feels great. I don't feel dry. I don't feel scratchy. I don't feel any negative sort of feeling. My skin feels as hydrated as it really possibly could at the end of a day because I've just got dry skin. I'm fairly impressed. I'm fairly impressed. Also, third lip color of the day. This is Urban Decay. It's one of the new Vice formulas, the Sheer Shimmer formula. It's a color called Seismic. I figured, why not? I'm going to zoom you guys in so you can see up close. I do have a little bit of settling in the polka dot nose, a little bit of foundation settling in there. But like I said, I think this side of my face really held the bronzer and the blush and the highlight and the foundation really nicely. This side didn't do terribly bad, but you can tell it has definitely faded more. So primer and setting spray I think definitely help. Let me zoom you guys in. Oh, let's just get close. All right, here you go. This is without the setting spray or primer. This side is with the setting spray and primer. Without. That's a terrible shot. Sorry guys, I want you to see the chin. The nose. Now the concealer, it just hasn't won me over. I think the lines under my eyes look terrible. I think the coverage is nowhere near what it should be for a concealer at this price that claims to be a full coverage concealer. It did settle into the creases, or settle out of, really, was the problem here. Let me zoom you in if you would like to see the concealer. You probably don't want to see this, it's kind of terrifying. There you go. Dark circles are raging. Really not much on the coverage. There you have it. I am going to call the Born This Way foundation a hit. Not quite my holy grail. Remember, my absolute favorite of all time is the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Foundation. But this is definitely up there. I have very few concerns or complaints about this foundation. Probably enough that I will consider purchasing a bottle. I'm going to try the rest of my sample and see how it goes, and I'll probably swatch in the store and see if the porcelain shade would be a better match for me than this vanilla. This might be a tiny bit too dark. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's fine. I'll just have to look into it. But I'm going to say Born This Way foundation gets a thumbs up. Born This Way concealer, don't waste your money. There you have it. Thanks for stopping by, spending some time with me today. If you would like to see more of these first impressions and wear tests, give me a thumbs up below, and feel free to suggest products in the comments if you have ideas for foundations or other things you would like me to try out. Thanks again for stopping by. Take care of each other. Have a good one. Bye-bye.